us some of the other good scoop in here before everybody remembers how angry they are at John Bolton for not participating in that Senate impeachment trial.
Yeah, and there will be a lot of anger at John Bolton for that. Obviously, there's a question about why he didn't testify earlier, and he could have, but it's all in the book. What he'll tell you is that he offered to testify in the Senate trial, and they didn't subpoena him, which, remember, Senate Republicans did block an effort to get him to testify at that point. But in any case, yeah, there's a lot of interesting things in this book. Some things, of course, we'll all recognize by Mr. Bolton's account. This is a president who doesn't have a great deep store of knowledge about the world. He asked whether Finland was part of Russia. He seems surprised that Britain has nuclear weapons. Mr. Bolton writes that intelligence briefings were kind of a waste of time because it was all about Mr. Trump talking rather than the intelligence briefers talking. But he also talks about some, larger themes. And the larger theme is the politicization of policy. Places where the president seems to confuse his own personal interests with those of the country, at least according to Mr. Bolton. That was at the heart, of course, of the Ukraine matter. And what Mr. Bolton is saying here is the House investigators just didn't go far enough. There are plenty of other instances that they should have looked at. One instance he writes about, for instance, is a meeting that the president had with China's president, Xi Jinping, at Osaka, Japan last summer. During that meeting, the president was pleading, according to Mr. Bolton, with Xi Jinping to buy a lot of American agricultural products because it would make it easier for the president to win re-election in farm states in 2020. Mr. Bolton writes that he found that stunning and a misuse of trade negotiations for political gain. These investigations you mentioned at the top about ZTE in China, Halk Bank in Turkey, they seem to be chits on a bargaining table for the president rather than criminal investigations of misconduct. And so what the portrait that Mr. Bolton is laying out here is a pretty withering one. And remember, this is not a liberal. He's not even a never Trumper. He's a staunch conservative who went into this administration thinking he could influence policy, and of course ended up pushed out and resigning on his own accord last September.
Neal Katyal, it's easy to be blinded by John Bolton's depiction of Donald Trump as a buffoon. I mean, the stupidity that he details is staggering. But what rings through is that if he were anyone but the president, there are probably a half a dozen instances that I've read in Peter's story that anyone else would be referred to DOJ for prosecution. I mean, is the corruption criminal?
It very well could be. So, I mean, I think that's exactly the right question. I know a lot of people are focusing on Bolton and his motivation and stuff. The story here is not Bolton. The story is Donald Trump and the fact that his top aide, the his former national security advisor, is documenting a pattern of, definitely impeachable and indeed criminal conduct here. And that is just an astounding thing. And the irony for Bolton is that he writes this book, which is all about how the president is abusing his national security powers in aid of his personal political goals. And now Bolton faces a lawsuit for exactly that, because the same course of conduct in which the president has politicized the pre-classification review process to try and stop publication of the book. It's obviously not working. Peter's already got a copy of it, but has done that and displaced the career officials who do that with political apparatchiks who've tried to hold up the book, and now they've actually gone to court to try and stop him. It won't work. It's not working already, but it just shows a desperate and frankly incompetent administrative move.
And Peter Baker, your paper, I think, has reported that the manuscript was cleared it did get cleared, right, on national security questions before they decided to unclear him and sue him?
Yeah, our understanding is that he went through the whole pre-publication review process with the official charged with, reviewing these kind of manuscripts. They went back and forth. This official sent him, places that they need to be changed in her review. He made adjustments in accordance to those requests. Another round would happen. And as far as he understands, according to his lawyer anyway, he had completed it. They had no further requests for changes in the book, but they refused or at least failed to give him a final written document saying we have now cleared this book for publication. And then they learned that another official above that official was suddenly going to reopen the review to look for himself to see if there's any classified information left. What I've read of the book, almost all of this point, I don't see anything in there that looks obviously classified unless you decide anything a president says to a foreign leader is automatically classified. Now, you might make that argument. Some will. The president certainly does. But there's nothing in there that says, for instance, here's a secret program or a spy program, or here's sources of methods of intelligence, anything like that that would give away, secrets that damaging to the American public. As far as it looks to me, it looks like it could be stuff that's just embarrassing to the president.
Well, and we know, Neil Katyal, that which is embarrassing to the president gets locked in a server by the lawyer on the White House counsel staff in charge of national security issues, who shoved the transcript of the Zelensky call into a server where you usually keep operational intel. I mean, we know that it is their MO to overclassify that which makes Trump look stupid, which is basically every phone call he has. So on the legal questions around Bolton's publication and now promotion of his book, are they standing on anything that could get Bolton in trouble legally or prosecuted?
Well, in a normal administration, yes. Like, I'm a believer in the pre-publication review process. I don't like the idea that government officials will go out and just spill secrets. And so the process is a really important one and has all sorts of salutary good things. The problem is when you have a president like this who's hell-bent on destroying the national security apparatus to serve his personal ends, you can't trust it. And as Peter was saying a moment ago, this is a really good example of that, because Bolton was cleared evidently by the career folks. And then it took a former Devin Nunes staffer named Michael Ellis to come in, a political appointee of Trump, and then say, oh, no, that's actually not, it shouldn't be cleared, and has held it up. And, ordinarily, I believe that government officials have the presumption of regularity, that there is a presumption of good faith. But this administration has destroyed any semblance of a presumption of good faith. And so when this goes to court, first of all, there's no chance. They've asked for an injunction to try and basically force Bolton to stop the book from coming out. There's zero chance that that's going to happen before Tuesday. And then on the question of can they get some of Bolton's money, even that I think is really dubious. Again, it would be a slam dunk in any other administration because they would respect the national security process, but this president spits on it.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.